Junior,
Huh?
get out there and blow that snow before customers start showing up.
What? Me? Why don't you do it?
I got these cats to watch.
So? It's freezing out there, Pa. Can't you find somebody else to do it?
I'll do it, Taryl.
Uncle Andy.
I love snow, and I love cleaning.
Okay, Andy, there's the shovel. Now get out there.
Okay, Taryl. Oh. I love the nightlife, baby. Do.
Jeez, Pa.
Do.
He'll be shoveling out there for a month at that pace.
Yeah, you're right, Junior.
I love the nightlife. I love the nightlife, Taryl.
Maybe I should let him use our snowblower.
You think that's a good idea, Pa? The guy couldn't even pour pee out of a boot if the directions were on the heel.
I'll show him how to work it. It's not that hard. He always wants to learn.
Have you met Andy? This guy could screw up a cup of coffee.
All right, Andy, this is the snowblower. It'll be faster and easier to clean the snow with this machine.
You really think so, Taryl? I was tearing it up out there.
Plus, it'll be easier on your back. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is put the key in. And that goes right here.
Oh, is this the key right here, Taryl?
Yeah, that's the key.
Oh, well, I guess we'll just see about that.
What's there to see about it? It's the key.
Is this the volume control?
It's not a volume control, that's the choke. This isn't a stereo. All right, Andy, I'll just start the thing and you can take it from there. It's pretty simple to operate. You push this lever down and it makes it blow snow. You push this lever down and it makes it dry. Simple enough.
Okay, piece of cake, just like Mama used to make.
Pterodactyl here, and today's how-to video is going to be on repowering this here Cub Cadet zero turn. That's got a thrown rod in the motor. This Kohler Command threw a rod on one side. So we're going to repower it with this here Briggs and Stratton 23 horse Intech motor. Now I know you're all probably saying, oh, why don't you just fix the motor that's on it, Taryl? Show us how to fix the motor that's on it. Why are you taking that good motor, that Command, and repowering it with that Briggs motor of a lesser motor? Because it all boils down to cost. This isn't my mower, this is a customer's mower. He makes the decision. We gave him the option. We gave him a price on a new motor. We gave him a price on what it could possibly cost to fix the motor that's in it, depending on how much damage. And we gave them the price on what it was going to cost to repower it with a used engine. Now, I would have liked to put a used Kohler Command 23 on there, but I don't have any. We got to go with what I got, and I ain't got one. So I gave him a price for that, and he's fine with it. So we're gonna put that motor on there, and I'm gonna show you what it takes. When you use one brand engine, you gotta swap it out with another one because it just doesn't bolt right in. There's things you gotta keep in mind. All right, so if you're gonna repower something with a different engine, I'm gonna tell you what you gotta know first before you even just go grab an engine and just try to stick it on there. First thing, crankshaft diameter and length has got to be the same as the other motor. Another thing is the muffkin. Is the muffkin going to work from the donor engine you're going to put on there? And if it doesn't, can you make it work? Do you have the skill level to make it work? A third thing is your cables. Are your cables long enough Do you have a separate choke and a separate throttle? Do you have the throttle and choke all in one? So those are things you got to keep in mind. And your electrical system. Is the motor you're using got a big enough alternator on it if it's got an electric PTO clutch? Because you got to make sure you got enough amperage. If you're using an engine from say a cheap lawnmower that doesn't have an electric clutch, chances are it's got a low amperage alternator on it, and it's not going to be able to charge the battery and run that electric PTO clutch. So you got to keep all these things in mind when you're doing these swaps. So first thing we're going to do is remove the engine. First thing I'm going to do is disconnect the battery on the positive side. And I'll disconnect the cables. As you can see, this one's all bent up. Choke cable obviously wasn't working that well. Might have to replace that. I'll disconnect the fuel line. Alright, let's disconnect all the wiring. We've got a plug here. And looks like we got a wire going to one of the engine mounts. We got a zip tie here. Cut loose. We got a fuse, which is tied in with the battery. That fuse, that's the coming off the charge circuit. Alright. Okay. Now, have to get underneath and take the electric clutch off. Alright, this one's got a lever to release the tension on the belt that goes to the clutch. Okay, I released the lever, but of course this arm is frozen. This is supposed to move, this arm. Lack of maintenance. Got a grease fitting on it. And look, belt still tight. Ugh. See if I can pull on it. Alright. Alright, I'm going to try to loosen this nut. Oh! Or this bolt. That's going to have to come apart. There we go. And be fixed. I know just shooting some grease in it isn't going to do the trick. Alright, maybe I can get the belt off now. Let's see if I can walk it off without getting my fingers smashed in there. Squeeze on it and get some more. I'll put a screwdriver in there. Hope I don't knock it off the jack stands. I don't think this is the right belt. There we go. Man, almost knocked it off the jack stands. Next thing, gotta disconnect the wire. There's a little locking tab on there. I already bent it out of the way. Sometimes these things are real hard to get apart. So be careful you don't rip the wires out. Alright, that one came out pretty easy. Alright, now I'll get a impact and zip that bolt out. 5/8 socket it should be. I'm going to take all the washers off this bolt, and then I'm going to stick it back in there. Because I'm probably going to have to air hammer it off. Make sure you put a lot of tension on that air hammer. Oop. Try to get a divot. I might have a bolt that's already got a divot in it if this doesn't work. Yeah, let me get my bolt. I got a bunch of different lengths of these 7/16 fine thread bolts with a divot in it already. Helps hold that air hammer bit in there. Keep it from jumping off on you. There we go. See? Easy as pie. Came right off. Alright, now we got to get the pump belt off, or drive belt. And for that, it looks like it's got a square hole in it for a ratchet. .3/8 ratchet. So I can use the ratchet to release the tension. Oh, that's pretty nice for once. Well, I guess I lost my wrench now because it's stuck in there. That's alright. I'll just go to the store and buy another one. Alright, now we got to undo the 4 engine mounting bolts. And in this case, they look like they're 1/2 inch. There's a nut on the other side. Sometimes they're self-tapered in there. Sometimes they got a nut on the other side. So go ahead and remove all 4. And we should be able to pull the motor off. Now, when removing them engine bolts in this case, where it's got a nut on the other side, it's a lot easier if you got somebody to help you up on top holding a wrench to get the nut off. I had Mr. Cameraman. Now I gotta take the muffkin off because it goes through these big holes. So I'll get in there with a wrench and remove the muffkin in this case. On these big lawnmower engines, there are lifting points. Here's one here, and here's one here. Just in case you might have seen them and go, what the heck are them for? That's so you can lift it off with an engine lift. You know, like you use for a car, you could use one. In case you got a bad back but if you don't have one, then, you know, 2 people works. Or if you're a big burly man, you just lift it off. Not that heavy. But, you know, some people got bad backs, and so all of them have a lifting point. Now, most mower manufacturers will put a bunch of different holes in there to fit a bunch of different engines, because a lot of times you'll have engine options, or, you know, they'll make it where it'll fit a Briggs and a Kohler. And so I'm going to go ahead and clean this up a little bit, and then we'll drop that Briggs down in there. Alright, I'm going to drop in the Briggs. Now this Briggs is the one that's always got the bad sump gasket. So I already went ahead and replaced the sump gasket. This was leaking on this one. Alright, looks like the holes line up. We're caught on something that ain't sitting totally flat. What have we caught on here? Oh, okay, I see. See, we're gonna have to do a little modification here. Alright, I see where it's hitting. These muffin pipes are hitting. So I just gotta kinda notch this out a little. So I'll have to mark these, notch it. So I got to thinking before I started modificating on this frame here, I thought, well, I wonder how close this Kohler muffler is to fitting on that Briggs motor. So I took the pipe off and I checked it, and the spacing is the same, but it's just off a little bit. And I thought, if I use that Briggs muffin, you know, I'm gonna have to mount that in here, and then I'm gonna have to make a mount for it. So that's a lot of extra work that I don't want to do. It'd be easier if I just took my oxygen and amphetamine torch and heated up these tubes and just tweaked them out a little bit. So I'll pull the motor back off and I'll show you how close we are to using this other muffin. So see, we're pretty close. So I think if I just heat up these tubes and tweak them over a little bit on each side, I can probably get it to fit. Woo, smoky, like Smoky Mountain. Better get some gloves on. Alright, let's see how close we are. Alright, looks like the flange has got to be twisted this way a little to get the bowl holes to line up. Oh, all right, that one's pretty good. Now I gotta tweak this one out. Smoking. All right. This side lines up. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of bolts in there. Alright, where I put them bolts in, let me tweak it a little more. A little bit more. Okay, now I gotta twist this flange a little bit. We're real close. So that's gotta go this way. So let me put it in like this. Then I'll put my channel locks on it, and then I gotta go down. Don't want to go the wrong way. Looks pretty good. Put some bolts in it. There it is. Little tweaking with the torch. Fits like a glove, like this glove. See how this glove fits? That's how that muffin fits. Like a glove. So that was a lot easier than cutting and grinding and making brackets. We just reused the old muffin. But there's one other person that's got to come out here and double check that. Make sure that it's okay. Alright, here she is, Inspector Muffin. Inspect this muffin, okay? Is it okay? Does it look alright to you? What's that? I'm gonna put new gaskets on it. Yeah, I'm gonna put new gaskets on there. So what do you think? How's it look, Muffin? Look okay? Does it pass your test? Looks like it passed Inspector Muffin's rigorous inspection. Now I see Blades over there inspecting the mower deck. Alright, now we gotta try to get this pulley off. Hopefully it'll come off. A lot of times they won't. Oh, we're lucky. Now if it didn't come off, we would have did my heat and quench trick, where I would have heated it up cherry red and then hammered it with a garden hose to cool it off real fast, and then it would have walked right off. So now we can stick this on the Briggs engine. Now this Briggs motor was threaded, so we don't have to mess around with those through bolts and trying to get nuts on the back side. So that'll make it easy. We could just bolt it right in. The only thing is the holes in the holes in here, we're gonna have to open them up. With that Kohler engine, this is how they grounded everything, like this, through the motor. And I don't like that, because sometimes these engine bolts loosen up, and we've had mowers come in because they wouldn't start because this ground wire was loose because one of the engine bolts loosened up. And then they're like scratching their head. They go, this thing was working fine, now it won't start. All because the engine bolt loosened up. So before I drop the motor in, I'm going to drill and tap a couple of holes and ground these wires right to the frame, not to the engine. Alright, I'm going to use self-tapping screws to hold these down. I'm going to use a 5/16 self-tapper for the battery cable, which I used a 17/64 drill bit for that. And then for this other one, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch self-tapper. And I sprayed a little lubricant on the threads too. And I moved them to the outside as far as I could, so in case you have to get to them, you can get to them. Now let's drop the motor on. Alright, we got the motor all bolted on nice and tight. Looks kind of funny, don't it? A Husqvarna on a Cub Cadet. I hope they're not going to be fighting. I guess we're going to call it a Scrub Cavarna. Alright, so now I'm going to put the electric clutch back on. Alright, these clutches, sometimes you struggle with them to get them to line up, so I like to grind a little flats on the 4 edges, a little chamfer or a little radius, whatever you want to call it. And then put some never sees on the shaft so you can get this thing off. And then get her lined up. Give it a little Wigglesworth. Sometimes you gotta wiggle it just a little bit. Wiggle it just a little bit to get it to go on. And then we'll tighten her up. I know they recommend you torque them. You can torque them if you want, but that little 3/8 impact, that gets it tight enough. Now, when we took this apart, they had the wire on the outside of this tube, and it was kind of tight. It was putting a lot of tension on these wires, and I didn't like that. So I'm going to run it to the inside, and I'm going to put a zip tie on here to hold it up out of the way. Alright, got the muffkin on. Now I need to run a longer piece of hose to the fuel pump, which is no big deal. And then this is our throttle cable, and that's going to go into here from the bottom. And if you notice, it's got another hole up here where you can come in from this way on the Briggs. Now, this doesn't look like it was the original choke cable. It's pretty lightweight. So, and plus it's not gonna reach. We have to come in from this side for the choke. So I have a 8-foot universal choke cable that I'm gonna cut down and use. So we'll just take this off and run a new one. So this is an Oregon 8-foot universal choke cable I stocked. In case you want the part number, it's 60-122. That way I don't have to stock all these different choke cables for all these different mowers. I just stock this one, and then I can just cut it to length. So I'll figure my length, then I'll mark it. Cap's over here. Then you want to pull the inner wire all the way out. Or most of the way out. And I'll cut it where I marked it. Shove the wire back in. I whip Mr. Cameraman. Route it all nicely. I'm going to use this zip tie. I want to go under this green ground wire I did. And I whip Mr. Cameraman with the cable. Alright, so the knob's all the way in. We want this all the way back. So that's going to be right there. And then we'll leave it a little bit long. And then get yourself one of these handy dandy Z benders. Stick it in, bend it, turn it, bend it up, and there's your Z. Alright, we got choke. Now we gotta wire it. Now we're getting to the wiring part. As you can see, this Kohler starter, it's got solenoid piggybacked on the starter. So we're going to have to add a solenoid because the Briggs starter uses a separate solenoid. But we want this battery cable, so I'm going to take that battery cable off. I've got the solenoid mounted. It's a 3-post solenoid. Now, Cub Cadet had a place to mount the solenoid over here, probably for a different engine, probably Briggs. But it was so hard to get at, I moved it over here. And then I went to the Husqvarna donor tractor and took this cable off. And then this was the cable from the Kohler, which originally had this fuse wire bolted to the battery. Then I went to the donor, Husqvarna donor tractor, and took this plug off that went to the Briggs motor, because we need to use this, so it makes it easier to connect stuff. And then this is the connector from the Kohler engine that went into the main harness on the Cub Cadet. So I cut that off. So off of here, we're only going to use 2 wires. We're going to use this blue wire, and this black wire is the kill wire. This was for the headlights on the Husqvarna. And then on this connector, with all these wires, we're going to use 3 wires. We're going to use this blue wire, which goes to the solenoid. And this is our red power wire, and this is our kill wire to kill the motor. And then I'm going to clean this plug up, take these wires out, and make it look nice. But for now, I'm just going to show you this way. I already crimped the connector on here for the solenoid. Now we're going to go over to the Kohler engine because you're probably curious to know what all these other wires are for. So I cut the harness, the shrink wrap that was on the wires, I cut that off so you can see it a little better. So this blue wire was the trigger wire for the solenoid. That's why I've got that on there for our solenoid. This red wire went to here, to the battery. So that's our main power wire. And then this yellow wire, these two yellow wires were for some kind of other application because they weren't plugged into anything. And then this same with this white wire. That's why we have two white wires. That's like a auxiliary kill wire for another application. Because here's our white wire that goes to the coils. Goes through here, and then this goes to the other coil. And then this red wire, these two red wires here with the diodes, they went to this other connector, which was for some other option, and fuel shutoff solenoid that's on the carburetor. Now diodes are basically check valves, electrical check valves. They only let current flow one way and not back. So for some reason, Kohler's got these wired into that. They only wanted current to flow one way. So that'll help to know where all these wires go when you're trying to rewire a motor. So you should keep the old motor so you can figure it out. Here's the wires from Briggs. Now this gray wire, that goes to the fuel shutoff solenoid that's on the carburetor. This black wire is the engine kill wire. This red wire is the wire that's coming from the voltage regulator on the other side. And then there's a jumper which is going to jump the power over for the headlight. And then that red wire comes through here to jump power to that solenoid. And then this is the wire, the power wire off the tractor. So I just got some wire nuts here. We're just going to wire this up real quick to show you. So I'll plug that back in. Plug the blue wire onto the solenoid. And then we're going to take this black wire to the white wire because that's our kill. I'll just use these temporary wire nuts. And then the blue wire we're going to connect to this red wire. Alright, there's our blue wire hooked to our solenoid. And here's our blue wire off the Briggs motor going to the red wire. And then there's that black wire with the white tracer going to the white wire on that plug from the Kohler engine. That's the kill wire, engine kill. Alright, I'm going to test the PTO, make sure the clutch is working. So I'm going to turn it one click on. And when I pull this, you should be able to hear the electric clutch. Hear it? Alright, now I still don't have the clutch hooked up the blades because I got to fix that arm under there, it's all rusty. Alright, so let's start it and then check our voltage, make sure it's charging the battery. Now all I gotta do is clean up them wires, make it look nice. You know, I'll remove all these wires and I'll make proper connections. And then hook up the deck, fix that arm. This is the first time that Husqvarna and Cub Cadet have worked together. They're getting along just fine right now. So, follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Go to our web store and buy our Taryl Apparel and many other products we got. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. And as always, there's your dinner on this scrub Husqvarna, or whatever you want to call it. Sounds like he's doing okay out there, Junior.
Yeah, I guess so. He's wrecking our snowblower and our shop.
Oh no!
You all right, Uncle Andy?
Oh, my gloves got stuck underneath these levers. I just couldn't keep up. When you hit that gas, this thing really goes.
Andy, I think your snowblowing days are over.
Oh, come on, Taryl. I was just starting to get the hang of it.
Junior, get over here and finish cleaning up this snow.
Great. Thanks a lot, Andy.